7,000 men rode into a camp of 60,000. The torches went out. Then the screaming started. Vlad's soldiers came out of the darkness. Ottoman soldiers stumbled from their tents, half awake, half dressed, dying before they knew what was happening. Vlad had one target, one tent, one man, the Sultan. He failed. The Sultan survived. But 3 days later, the greatest conqueror in the world turned his army around and went home. He told his men, "I cannot conquer a man who does such things." What did he see? This is the story of how one prince broke an empire, not by defeating them, but by terrifying them. To understand what the Sultan saw, you have to understand the man who built it. His name was Vlad. The Ottomans had a different name for him. They called him Kazaklı Bey, the Impaler. Vlad was born in 1431 in a region called Transylvania. Yes, that Transylvania, the one from the vampire stories. This is not a coincidence. Vlad is the man who inspired the legend of Dracula. His father was Vlad II, a military commander who ruled a small country called Wallachia. Wallachia sat between two giant powers. To the west was Hungary. To the east was the Ottoman Empire. Being stuck between two empires is dangerous. You have to pick a side. And if you pick wrong, you die. Vlad's father tried to play both sides. He joined a secret group of Christian knights called the Order of the Dragon. Their mission was to fight the Ottomans. Because of this, people called him Dracul, the dragon. His son became Dracula, son of the dragon. But Vlad's father also made deals with the Ottomans. He paid them money to leave Wallachia alone. He promised to be loyal. The Ottomans did not trust promises. They wanted something better. They wanted hostages. In 1442, Vlad was 11 years old. His father traveled to meet with the Ottoman Sultan. He brought 2 of his sons with him, Vlad and his younger brother, Radu. It was a trap. The Ottomans grabbed all 3 of them. They told Vlad's father, "You can go home, but your sons stay with us." This was how the Ottomans did business. If a ruler broke his promise, his children would die. Simple. Vlad and Radu were taken to the Ottoman capital. They were prisoners, royal prisoners. They lived in a palace, not a dungeon. But they could not leave. They could not go home. They were hostages. Vlad was 11. Radu was 7. They would not see Wallachia again for 6 years. Those 6 years changed Vlad. The Ottoman court was brutal. Vlad watched how the Sultan dealt with enemies. He saw executions. He saw torture. He learned that fear was a weapon, maybe the most powerful weapon of all. He also learned to hate. The Ottomans beat him when he disobeyed. They mocked his religion. They treated him like a dog on a leash, useful, but never trusted. His younger brother Radu handled it differently. Radu was handsome and charming. He made friends with the Ottoman princes. He converted to Islam. He became a favorite at court. Vlad watched his brother become one of them. He never forgave him. In 1447, while Vlad was still a hostage, everything fell apart. Back in Wallachia, a group of nobles called boyars decided they wanted a new ruler. They made a deal with Hungary. Together, they attacked Vlad's father. They caught him in a swamp. They killed him. But that was not enough. Vlad's older brother, Mircea, was also in Wallachia. The boyars captured him. They tortured him. They burned out his eyes with hot iron stakes. Then they buried him alive. When the news reached Vlad, he was 16 years old. His father was dead. His brother was dead, murdered by the nobles who were supposed to serve them. The Ottomans eventually released Vlad. They thought he might be useful, a puppet ruler they could control. They were wrong. Vlad was not going to be anyone's puppet. He was going to take back his country. He was going to find the men who killed his family, and he was going to make them suffer. It took 9 years. Vlad fought for the throne of Wallachia 3 times. He lost twice. He was betrayed. He was exiled. He nearly died. But in 1456, he finally won. He was 25 years old. He was the ruler of Wallachia, and he had a very long list of people who needed to die. The boyars, the nobles who had murdered his father and brother, were still powerful. Many of them still lived in Wallachia. They thought they could control the new prince, just like they had controlled the old ones. They thought wrong. In 1459, Vlad invited the boyars to an Easter feast. Easter was the holiest day in the Christian calendar, a time of peace, a time of forgiveness. No one expected violence. The boyars came dressed in their finest clothes. They ate, they drank, they laughed. Then Vlad asked them a question. "How many princes have you seen in your lifetime?" The boyars answered proudly. Some had seen 10 princes, some had seen 20, some had seen even more. Vlad nodded. He understood what this meant. Wallachia had so many princes because the boyars kept killing them. They would support one ruler, then betray him, then support another. They had been doing this for decades. They had done it to his father. Vlad gave a signal. His soldiers surrounded the room. The old boyars, the ones who had helped kill his father, were dragged outside. Wooden stakes had already been prepared, sharpened, waiting. One by one, the old boyars were impaled. A stake through the body, hoisted into the air, left to die slowly. Some took hours, some took days. The younger boyars were not killed. Vlad had a different plan for them. They were chained together and marched into the mountains. They were forced to build a fortress, stone by stone with their bare hands. Most of them died from exhaustion. Their bones are probably still in those walls. This was Vlad's justice. This was how he earned his name, the Impaler. For 6 years, Vlad ruled Wallachia with terror. He impaled thieves. He impaled liars. He impaled anyone who challenged him. Some stories say he impaled people for being lazy. Others say he impaled a woman because her husband's shirt was too short. Not all the stories are true, but enough of them are. Vlad did not just want obedience. He wanted fear. He believed that fear was the only thing that kept people in line. Kindness was weakness. Mercy was death. The boyars had taught him that lesson. The Ottomans had taught him that lesson. He learned it well, but there was one enemy he had not yet faced. The empire that had held him hostage. The empire that had treated him like a dog. The empire that was now demanding he kneel. The Ottoman Empire. By 1459, Sultan Mehmed II was the most powerful man in the world. 6 years earlier, he had done the impossible. He had conquered Constantinople, the greatest city in Europe, the capital of the Byzantine Empire, the city that had stood for over 1,000 years. Mehmed was 21 when he took Constantinople. His soldiers called him the Conqueror. His enemies called him a nightmare. After Constantinople fell, Mehmed kept expanding. He wanted to rebuild the Roman Empire, with himself as emperor. Greece fell, Serbia fell, Bosnia fell. One by one, the Christian kingdoms collapsed. Now Mehmed looked at Wallachia. It was small, weak, ruled by a prince who had once been his prisoner. Mehmed sent messengers to Vlad. The message was simple: pay tribute, send money every year, send young men to serve in the Ottoman army, kneel or be destroyed. For a few years, Vlad played along. He paid the money. He sent the men. He pretended to be loyal. But in 1459, the Sultan raised his demands. He wanted more money. He wanted more soldiers. He wanted Vlad to come to Constantinople in person, to kneel before the Sultan and kiss his hand. Vlad said no. In 1461, Mehmed sent 2 envoys to Wallachia. They came with a message: pay what you owe. Come to Constantinople. Submit. Vlad received them politely. He listened to their demands. He asked questions. He seemed interested. Then he asked about their turbans. Ottoman envoys wore turbans as a sign of their faith. They were not supposed to remove them, even in the presence of foreign rulers. This was a matter of religious pride. Vlad asked, "Why do you not remove your turbans in my presence?" The envoys explained. It was their custom, their religion. They could not remove them. Vlad smiled. "Then I will help you keep your custom forever." He had his soldiers grab the envoys. He ordered iron nails to be hammered through their turbans, into their skulls. The envoys died with their turbans on, just as they wanted. Vlad sent their bodies back to Mehmed. This was his answer: no tribute, no submission, no kneeling. War. When Mehmed received the bodies, he understood. This was not a negotiation. This was a challenge. The little prince from Wallachia, the boy who had once been his prisoner, was daring him to come. Mehmed did not get angry. He got ready. He assembled the largest army he had sent anywhere since Constantinople. 60,000 soldiers. Some sources say 90,000. Cavalry, infantry, cannons, war elephants. Against them, Vlad had maybe 30,000 men. Farmers, peasants, a small corps of trained soldiers. The math was simple. If the two armies met in open battle, Wallachia would be destroyed in a single afternoon. Vlad knew this, so he decided not to fight a battle. He would fight a different kind of war. In the spring of 1462, Mehmed's army crossed into Wallachia, 60,000 men, marching in columns that stretched for miles. The ground shook under their feet. The dust cloud could be seen from far away. They expected to crush Vlad in weeks, maybe days. They were wrong. Vlad knew he could not win a fair fight. 60,000 against 30,000. Ottoman soldiers were better trained, better equipped, better fed. If the two armies met on an open field, Wallachia would die. So Vlad made sure they would never meet on an open field. He had a different plan. The first thing the Ottomans noticed was the silence. They marched through village after village. Every single one was empty. No people, no animals, no food. The houses were burned. The fields were black with ash. The wells were filled with dirt and rocks. Some wells had something worse. Dead bodies thrown inside. The water was poisoned. Vlad had ordered his own people to destroy everything. Burn your crops. Kill your animals. Poison your wells. Leave nothing behind. Then run. Hide in the mountains. Hide in the forests. Do not let the Ottomans find you. The peasants obeyed. They had no choice. Vlad's men would kill anyone who refused. So when the Ottoman army arrived, they found a wasteland. This is called scorched earth. The idea is simple. An army needs food. It needs water. It needs supplies. If you destroy everything before the enemy arrives, they have nothing to eat, nothing to drink, nothing to take. A hungry army is a weak army. A thirsty army is a dying army. Vlad burned his own country to starve his enemy. The first week was hard for the Ottomans. The second week was worse. The food they brought with them started running out. They could not find more. Every farm was empty. Every storehouse was burned. Every animal was gone. The water was the bigger problem. 60,000 men need a lot of water. Horses need even more. In the summer heat, soldiers were drinking whatever they could find. Some found wells that looked clean. They drank. They got sick. They died. Vlad had poisoned them. Disease started spreading through the Ottoman camp. Soldiers who were healthy in the morning were dead by nightfall. The sickness moved fast. No one knew who would be next. The army kept marching, but it was getting weaker every day. Then the nights came. During the day, the Ottomans could see their enemy. They could form battle lines. They could use their numbers. At night, everything changed. Vlad's men came out of the darkness. Small groups of cavalry, 50 men, 100 men. They would ride into the Ottoman camp, kill as many soldiers as they could, and disappear before anyone could stop them. The Ottomans would wake up to screaming. They would grab their weapons. They would run toward the noise. By the time they got there, Vlad's men were gone. Only bodies remained. This happened every night. Sometimes twice a night. Sometimes 3 times. The Ottomans could not sleep. Every time they closed their eyes, they heard hoofbeats. Was it an attack? Or just their imagination? They posted guards. Vlad killed the guards. They lit fires to see better. Vlad's archers shot them from the darkness. They stayed awake all night. Then they had to march all day, exhausted, hungry, terrified. This went on for weeks. Vlad never fought a real battle. He did not have to. Every night he took a few more lives. Every day the Ottomans got weaker. Every mile they marched cost them men. He was bleeding them slowly, like a wolf following a wounded animal, waiting for it to collapse. Mehmed was not stupid. He understood what Vlad was doing. He sent cavalry units to chase the raiders. They rode into the forests and never came back. He sent scouts to find Vlad's army. Some returned with no information. Most did not return at all. He tried to force a battle. He marched his army toward Vlad's position. Vlad simply moved, disappeared, attacked somewhere else. The greatest conqueror in the world could not pin down one prince with a smaller army. It was humiliating. Mehmed pushed forward anyway. He was Sultan Mehmed II, the conqueror. He had taken Constantinople. He did not retreat. He did not give up. His target was Târgoviște, the capital of Wallachia. If he could take the capital, he could declare victory. He could put a new ruler on the throne. Someone loyal. Someone who would kneel. The army marched toward Târgoviște, hungry, sick, exhausted, but still dangerous, still 60,000 strong, or what was left of them. Vlad watched them come. He had one more move to make. On the night of June 17, 1462, Vlad gathered his best men, 7,000 cavalry, his most loyal soldiers, the ones who had been with him the longest, the ones who had killed with him, bled with him, the ones who would die for him. They met in a clearing in the forest. Torches flickered. Horses stamped the ground. The air was thick with tension. Vlad stood before them. He did not give a long speech. He was not that kind of leader. He told them the truth. Tonight, we ride into their camp. 60,000 men are sleeping down there. We are 7,000. He paused. Let the numbers sink in. We are not going to fight all of them. We are going to find one man, one tent, the Sultan. The men understood. This was not a battle. This was an assassination. Kill Mehmed, and the war ends. The Ottoman army falls apart. Wallachia survives. He looked at their faces. Some were scared. Some were calm. All of them knew what this meant. Many of them would not come back. If we fail, Vlad said, we die. If we succeed, we live as free men. Either way, we fight. He drew his sword. Stay close. Stay quiet. When the killing starts, do not stop until I give the signal. And if you find the Sultan before I do, he smiled. A cold smile. A wolf's smile. Leave him for me. The cavalry mounted their horses. 7,000 men. 7,000 swords. 7,000 hearts beating in the darkness. They rode toward the Ottoman camp. No torches. No noise. Just shadows moving through the night. The attack began around midnight. The Ottoman camp was massive. Tents stretched across the valley like a city made of cloth. Fires burned low. Guards walked their posts. 60,000 men slept, dreaming of home. They did not know death was coming. Vlad's men hit the outer edge first. The guards never saw them. One moment they were standing. The next moment they were on the ground with slit throats. Vlad's cavalry poured through the gap. Silent. Fast. Then someone screamed, and hell broke loose. Torches were knocked over. Tents caught fire. Horses broke free from their ropes and stampeded through the camp. Ottoman soldiers stumbled out of their tents, half-dressed, half awake, confused. They grabbed their weapons. They looked for the enemy. The enemy was everywhere. Vlad's men rode through the camp like demons. They swung their swords at anything that moved. They did not slow down. They did not stop to fight. They just kept killing and riding. Killing and riding. The Ottomans tried to form lines, tried to organize. But how do you fight an enemy you cannot see? How do you form a line when attacks are coming from every direction? The darkness made everything worse. Ottoman soldiers attacked each other by mistake. They heard screaming and swung their swords, and hit their own men. Vlad's cavalry wore Ottoman uniforms taken from the dead. They shouted commands in Turkish. They pointed Ottoman soldiers toward traps. It was chaos, pure chaos. Vlad rode through the middle of it all. He was not hiding. He was not commanding from the back. He was at the front, sword in hand, blood on his face. He cut down one man, then another, then another. But he was not here to kill soldiers. He was here for the Sultan. He rode deeper into the camp, past burning tents, past screaming men, past piles of bodies. He was looking for one tent, the biggest tent, the Sultan's tent. He found it, or he found where it was supposed to be. The tent was empty. The guards were dead, but Mehmed was gone. Vlad cursed. Someone had warned the Sultan. Someone had moved him. He searched the nearby tents. Nothing. He grabbed a wounded Ottoman soldier, put a blade to his throat. Where is Mehmed? The soldier was shaking, bleeding, terrified. I do not know. They moved him. Please. Vlad killed him and kept moving. The chaos was ending now. The Ottomans were waking up, organizing, fighting back. Vlad could hear horns blowing, officers shouting orders. The enemy was getting its footing, and the sky was getting lighter. Dawn was coming. If his men stayed too long, they would be surrounded, trapped, slaughtered. Vlad made the decision. He raised his sword and gave the signal. 3 short blasts on a horn. Retreat. The cavalry turned. They fought their way back through the camp. Some did not make it. They were pulled from their horses. cut down, but most escaped. They rode back into the darkness just as the sun started to rise. Behind them, the Ottoman camp burned. When the sun came up, Mehmed walked through his camp. He saw the bodies, thousands of them, his soldiers, his men. He saw the burned tents, the dead horses, the blood soaking into the ground. He had almost died. If his guards had been slower, if Vlad had found the right tent, he would be a corpse right now. The Sultan was silent for a long time. His generals reported the losses. The numbers vary, depending on the source. Some say 5,000 dead. Some say 15,000. The real number was probably somewhere in between. Whatever it was bad. Mehmed was shaken. He did not show it. He was the Sultan. He could not show fear. But his advisors saw it. His generals saw it. For the first time in his life, Mehmed was facing an enemy he could not beat in a straight fight. An enemy who fought like a ghost. An enemy who seemed to be everywhere and nowhere. An enemy who had just tried to kill him in his own bed. The army rested for a day. Then Mehmed gave the order. Keep marching. Take the capital. End this. The soldiers obeyed. They were terrified, exhausted, hungry and sick. But they obeyed. They marched toward Targovishte. 3 days later, they arrived. The city was empty. Vlad had evacuated everyone. The people were gone. The treasure was gone. Even the food was gone. But something was waiting for them. Something that would haunt Mehmed for the rest of his life. The smell hit them first. It came from the north, carried by the wind. A thick, heavy stench that stuck to the throat. The soldiers at the front of the column slowed down. They covered their noses. Some gagged. "What is that?" someone asked. No one answered, but they all knew what death smelled like. This was death. A lot of death. The column stopped. Word spread from the front to the back. Something was ahead. Something bad. Mehmed rode to the front. He pushed past his generals, past his guards. He wanted to see what was causing the delay. The road curved around a small hill. Mehmed came around the bend, and he stopped breathing. Bodies, thousands of them, impaled on wooden stakes, stretching across the valley, stretching along the road, stretching as far as he could see. The stakes were tall, 15 feet, 20 feet, some even taller. Each one sharpened at the top, each one driven into the ground, and on each stake, a body. Mehmed stared. He had conquered cities. He had seen battlefields covered with corpses. He had ordered executions himself. He had never seen anything like this. The bodies were arranged in rows, neat rows, organized rows, like a garden, like an orchard. But instead of trees, there were stakes. Instead of fruit, there were corpses. Some bodies were fresh, days old. The skin was pale. The eyes were open. Flies covered the faces. Some bodies were older, weeks old. The flesh was rotting, falling off the bones. The smell was unbearable. Some bodies were just skeletons now, picked clean by crows. Empty skulls staring down at the road. The soldiers behind Mehmed came around the bend. One by one they saw it. No one spoke. No one moved. 60,000 men, the greatest army in the world, stood frozen, staring at 20,000 corpses rotting in the sun. A crow landed on one of the stakes. It pecked at a body's face. Then another crow came. Then another. The sky was full of them, circling, waiting. This was a feast for them. The sound of their calls echoed across the valley. That and the buzzing of flies, millions of flies, nothing else. No wind, no voices, just crows and flies and silence. Then someone noticed something worse. One of the bodies moved. A soldier pointed. That one is alive. Mehmed looked. The soldier was right. A body near the front of the forest was twitching. The chest was moving, breathing. Impalement does not kill quickly. That was the point. The stake enters through the bottom of the body. It is pushed up slowly, carefully. A skilled executioner knows how to avoid the organs, how to keep the victim alive as long as possible. Hours, sometimes days, dying slowly on a wooden pole, feeling everything. Vlad had learned this from the Ottomans. During his years as a hostage, he had watched their executions. He had studied their techniques. Now he used it against them. Mehmed's generals rode up beside him. No one knew what to say. One general finally spoke. "We should go around, find another road." Mehmed shook his head. There is no other road. This is the only way to the capital. He looked at the forest of bodies. He wants us to walk through. Mehmed dismounted his horse. His guards moved to follow. He raised a hand. Stop. I will go alone. He walked into the forest. The stakes rose around him like trees. The bodies hung above him like strange fruit. The smell was so thick he could taste it. He walked slowly, looking up at the faces. Some were strangers, Wallachian soldiers, local nobles, peasants who had refused to flee. Some were not strangers. He stopped at one stake. The body was wearing Ottoman armor. The face was swollen, rotting, but Mehmed recognized him, one of his officers, a man who had served him for years, captured in a raid 2 weeks ago. Now he was meat on a stick. Mehmed kept walking. He found more Ottoman soldiers, dozens of them, hundreds of them, men who had been captured during the night raids, men who had been caught scouting, men who had simply been unlucky. Vlad had saved them, not to ransom, not to trade, to display. Near the center of the forest, Mehmed found something else. 2 men, impaled on the tallest stakes, higher than all the others, their bodies dressed in fine Ottoman robes. Mehmed recognized the robes. These were his envoys, the 2 men he had sent to demand tribute, the ones Vlad had killed with nails through their skulls. They were still wearing their turbans. The nails were still in their heads. Vlad had mounted them here. A message, a reminder. This is what happens to your messengers. This is what happens to your demands. This is what happens to anyone you send. Mehmed stood beneath them for a long time. His face showed nothing. He was the Sultan. He could not show weakness. But inside, something was breaking. He had conquered Constantinople. He had destroyed empires. He had killed kings. He had never faced a man like this. He walked back to his army. His generals were waiting. His soldiers were waiting. Everyone wanted to know what to do. Mehmed mounted his horse. He looked at the forest one more time. 20,000 bodies. 20,000 warnings. Then he said the words that would follow him for the rest of his life. I cannot conquer a man who does such things. That night, Mehmed called his generals to his tent. The meeting was short. The Sultan announced his decision. The army would not attack Targovishte. They would not chase Vlad into the mountains. They would not stay in Wallachia one more day. They were leaving. Some generals argued. They had come so far. They had lost so many men. To turn back now would be humiliating. Mehmed listened. Then he spoke. Look at our army. Half are dead. Half are sick. The rest cannot sleep. We have no food. We have no water. And the enemy is a ghost who kills us every night. He paused. We could stay. We could chase him for months. We would lose more men every day. And in the end, even if we won, what would we have? A burned wasteland ruled by a demon. He shook his head. It is not worth it. The generals went quiet. They knew he was right. The decision was made. The next morning, the Ottoman army turned around. 60,000 men had crossed into Wallachia. Fewer than half were leaving. The rest were dead. Killed by disease. Killed by starvation. Killed in the night raids. Killed in the failed assassination attempt. Or impaled. Left as decorations on the road to Targovishte. The retreat was slow. The soldiers were exhausted. Many were sick. They had no energy left. And Vlad was not finished. His cavalry followed the retreating army. They did not attack in force. They did not need to. They just picked off stragglers. A soldier who fell behind. A group that wandered too far from the main column. A supply wagon that got stuck in the mud. Vlad's men took them, killed them, vanished. The Ottoman army bled all the way back to the border. When they finally crossed out of Wallachia, the survivors looked back. They had come to conquer a small country. They had been beaten by one man, not beaten in battle. They had never even fought a real battle. Beaten by fear. Beaten by the man who understood something Mehmed did not. You do not need to kill an army. You just need to break its spirit. Vlad had won. The greatest military power in the world had invaded his country with the largest army since Constantinople. They had retreated without taking a single city. One prince, against an empire. And the empire blinked first. But Vlad's victory came with a cost. Wallachia was destroyed. The fields were burned. The villages were empty. The wells were poisoned. It would take years to rebuild. And Mehmed was not the kind of man who forgave. The Sultan did not forget Wallachia. He did not forget Vlad. He just changed his strategy. Remember Vlad's younger brother? Radu, the one who had stayed with the Ottomans, the one who had converted to Islam and become a favorite at court. Mehmed sent Radu to Wallachia, not with an army, with gold, with promises, with letters to the boyars, the nobles who hated Vlad. Radu told them, "Help me take the throne. I will be a peaceful ruler. No more impaling, no more terror, just stability." The boyars listened. They were tired of Vlad, tired of the war, tired of living in fear. One by one, they switched sides. Vlad watched his support disappear. The same nobles who had once bowed to him now opened their gates to his brother. The same soldiers who had fought beside him now refused to fight. By the end of 1462, Vlad had almost no one left. He fled to Hungary. He hoped King Matthias would help him take back his throne. Instead, Matthias threw him in prison. The reasons are unclear. Maybe the Hungarian king made a deal with the Ottomans. Maybe he was afraid of Vlad. Maybe he just did not trust a man who impaled 20,000 people. Whatever the reason, Vlad spent the next 12 years in a Hungarian prison. Radu became the new ruler of Wallachia. He was everything Vlad was not: charming, diplomatic, obedient. He paid tribute to the Ottomans. He kept the boyars happy. He did not impale anyone. Wallachia had peace, but it was the peace of a dog on a leash. Vlad sat in his cell and waited for 12 years. 12 years is a long time, long enough for a kingdom to change, long enough for enemies to die, long enough for the world to forget you. But Vlad did not forget. In his cell, he waited, he planned, he dreamed of returning to Wallachia, of taking back his throne, of finishing what he started. The stories say he did not stop impaling, even in prison. He caught rats and mice in his cell. He sharpened small sticks. He impaled the animals and arranged them around his room. Some say this is legend, some say it is true. Either way, it tells you something about the man. 12 years in a cell did not break him. It did not change him. He was still the impaler. In 1474, everything changed. The Ottomans were expanding again. Mehmed was still sultan, still conquering, still dangerous. Hungary needed allies. They needed someone who could fight the Ottomans, someone who had proven he could hurt them. They looked at their prisoner. King Matthias released Vlad, not out of kindness, out of necessity. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Vlad was 43 years old now. He had spent 12 years in a cell. His body was older, his hair was grey, but his mind was the same. His hatred was the same. He wanted one thing: Wallachia. His brother Radu was dead. Radu had ruled Wallachia for years as an Ottoman puppet. He had kept the peace. He had paid the tribute. He had done everything the Sultan asked. Then he got sick and died. Some say it was natural. Some say it was poison. It did not matter to Vlad. His brother was gone. The throne was open. In 1476, Vlad invaded Wallachia. He had a small army, Hungarian soldiers, some loyal Wallachians who still remembered him. Not many, but it was enough. The current ruler fled. Vlad took back his throne. For the third time in his life, he was the Prince of Wallachia. It did not last. Vlad ruled for barely 2 months. The Ottomans were not going to let him stay. They remembered 1462. They remembered the night attack. They remembered the forest. They sent an army. The details of Vlad's death are unclear. We know he died in late December 1476 or early January 1477. We know he died in battle, or something close to it. But the exact circumstances are a mystery. Some sources say he was killed fighting the Ottomans. He charged into battle like he always did. He was struck down by enemy soldiers. Some say his own men killed him. The boyars had never forgiven him. They saw their chance and took it. A knife in the back while he was fighting the enemy in front. Some say it was an accident. In the chaos of battle, his own soldiers mistook him for an Ottoman. He was wearing Turkish armor or riding a Turkish horse, and killed him by mistake. We do not know which story is true. Maybe none of them are. What we know is this: Vlad died fighting, just like he had lived. The Ottomans took his head. They wanted proof. They wanted to show the world that the impaler was finally dead. His head was sent to Constantinople. Mehmed displayed it on a stake outside the city gates. The Sultan wanted everyone to see. The man who had humiliated him, the man who had made him retreat, was gone. Vlad the Impaler, impaled. There is a dark poetry in that. His body was buried somewhere in Wallachia. The exact location is unknown. Some say he was buried at a monastery called Snagov, on an island in the middle of a lake. Monks supposedly laid him to rest there. In 1931, archaeologists dug beneath the monastery floor. They were looking for Vlad's grave. They found nothing. Some believe the grave was moved. Some believe it was robbed. Some believe he was never buried there at all. To this day, no one knows where Vlad's body lies. Even in death, he remains a mystery. Mehmed outlived him by only 4 years. The Sultan died in 1481. Some say he was poisoned. Some say he was sick. He was 49 years old. He had conquered more territory than almost any Ottoman sultan. He had taken Constantinople. He had built an empire, but he never conquered Wallachia. For the rest of his life, whenever anyone mentioned Vlad, Mehmed would go quiet. The man who had feared nothing, who had broken empires, never forgot the prince who had made him turn back. The forest haunted him until he died. After Vlad's death, Wallachia fell back under Ottoman control. His son tried to take the throne. He failed. The boyars kept fighting each other. The country kept suffering. Nothing Vlad built survived him, except one thing: his legend. In Romania today, Vlad is not remembered as a monster. He is remembered as a hero. The man who stood up to the Ottomans when no one else would. The man who refused to kneel. The man who burned his own country to keep it free. Yes, he was brutal. Yes, he impaled thousands. But he did it to protect his people. He did it to fight an empire that wanted to swallow them whole. That is how Romanians see him. Every year, tourists visit the ruins of his castles. They walk the same hills where he ambushed the Ottomans. They look out at the same valleys where the forest of the impaled once stood. They come to see where Dracula lived, because that is the other part of Vlad's legacy. Dracula. In 1897, more than 400 years after Vlad's death, a writer named Bram Stoker published a novel. It was called Dracula. The story was about a vampire, an ancient monster who lived in Transylvania, who drank blood, who could not die. Stoker borrowed the name from history. Dracula, son of the dragon, Vlad's name. He borrowed the location. Transylvania, Vlad's homeland. He borrowed the cruelty, the bloodlust, the terror. But the vampire in the novel is fiction. The real Dracula was worse. Vampires are not real. Vlad was. The world remembers Vlad in different ways. To Hollywood, he is a vampire, a monster in a cape. To historians, he is a brutal warlord, a case study in psychological warfare. To Romanians, he is a patriot, a defender of his people. To the Ottomans who faced him, he was something else entirely, a nightmare. What is the truth? Maybe all of it, maybe none of it. Vlad was a man shaped by violence. He was taken hostage as a child. He watched his father murdered. He heard how his brother was tortured and buried alive. The world taught him that mercy was weakness, that fear was power, that the only way to survive was to be more terrifying than your enemies. He learned the lesson well, too well. The forest of the impaled was his masterpiece. Not a battle, not a victory, just 20,000 bodies rotting in the sun. It broke the greatest army in the world. It made the greatest conqueror in the world turn around and go home. No sword did that. No cannon did that. Fear did that. One man's understanding that sometimes the mind is easier to destroy than the body. Was Vlad a hero? He saved his country. For a while. Was he a monster? He killed tens of thousands. Without mercy. The answer is probably both. History is not simple. People are not simple. Vlad was a man who did terrible things for reasons he believed were right. He was a product of his time. A time when cruelty was common and survival was everything. He was not good. He was not evil. He was something harder to understand. He was human. The sun sets over Wallachia. The hills are quiet now. The stakes are gone. The bodies are dust. 500 years have washed away the blood. But the land remembers. The forests remember. The stories remember. Somewhere in Romania, a guide leads tourists through an old castle. He tells them about the prince who lived here, the prince who fought an empire, the prince who became a legend. Somewhere in Istanbul, the walls still stand where Mehmed displayed Vlad's head. No marker, no sign, just old stones that saw a skull on a stake. Somewhere, a child watches a vampire movie and does not know that the name Dracula belonged to a real man. A man far more frightening than any monster. Vlad asked the world a question. How much are you willing to do to survive? How far are you willing to go? He answered it with 20,000 bodies. The Ottomans came with 60,000 men. They left with fewer than half. They never conquered Wallachia while Vlad lived. They never forgot why. And 500 years later, we are still telling his story. If this story stayed with you, leave a comment below. Tell me what you think of Vlad, hero or monster. Tell me if you knew the real history behind Dracula. Subscribe and turn on notifications if you want more stories like this.